Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Hope everyone is having a fantastic Microsoft Ignite 2020. This is the first virtual Ignite I've had the opportunity to attend. I think this is our first virtual Ignite. Lots of fun. And today we're going to talk about some fun stuff. We actually have a lot of fun things to talk about today. So we're going to talk about managing teams. And specifically, we're going to talk about apps, bots, and connectors. And we're going to play this off of a Learn module. So I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But Microsoft has a whole bunch of really cool training content. We're going to walk through some of that and learn some things about teams. But it's pretty cool in that I've got a really great collection of experts here with me that are going to help me out. And we're going to find some, I think, a couple of bonus bits and pieces to add in here as well. First things, by introduce myself. My name is Adrian Stephens. I'm a program manager for Microsoft Learn. So that means I get to help build, plan, and deploy a lot of that content that goes on Microsoft Learn. Now, you might be thinking so Learn. This is true. I'm a Learn expert. I'm a Teams enthusiast. So I know Teams pretty well, and I've done some development and some configuration, so I'm pretty good here. But again, I'm pretty fortunate to have a great collection of experts here. So joining us, we've got Mark Ingram, Amin Mohammed Khan, and Shari Oswald. So they're going to be the moderators. So when you're asked questions during our session, they're going to jump in and answer those questions. Probably can answer questions better, far better than I can. But again, I talked to them earlier, but I mentioned this again. Please, all of you, feel free to jump in, add comments, put me on the spot. Let's have some fun with it. And Amin is specifically going to do a little demo for us later on in the session. So talked about Learn. I want to just introduce Learn a little bit first. And Microsoft, we have a mission to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. And we on the Learn team think that a big part of that is to do that through learning, to build skills and the knowledge needed to really go do amazing things. And so with that, we built a free training portal. And let's say it is the place for free training on Microsoft. So it covers products and services, 1,200 hours of content. It's actually a lot higher. We're always launching new content. Cover things like Azure Dynamics, Microsoft 365, localized. So yes, we often see things in English at Microsoft because we're in North America. But yeah, we localize this content and some of it up to 23 languages. And we think that world reach is really interesting and really important. And as well, we're really big on hands-on interactivity and practice. So we're going to see some demos today. But the Learn site also enables that. And for some of our products, we actually have free interactivity. And of course, we do all this so we can work towards, well, skills, knowledge, ability, and also we can earn role-based certification training. These are recognized certifications. I'll talk about those in just a moment. So a couple prereqs. Well, actually, you don't have to have anything to enjoy this session. But if you're familiar with M365 and Microsoft Teams, well, this is going to be a little more meaningful for you. And if you want to follow along with some of the demos, you might need an M365 subscription, or you might just need administrator access on your Teams system and someone else has that subscription. Now, if you don't have either of those things, that's okay. You can, there's a number of ways of getting access to a free trial of M365, and the one I'm using actually just for this demo today is to join the developer program. This will give you, it says right there, free sandbox tools, and some other resources. You can try out M365, which of course includes Microsoft Teams. And so I've got a little bit of a, not quite an agenda, but some of our objectives. And these are actually some of the learning that are just from Microsoft Learn. So we're going to learn really all about Microsoft Teams, the apps, the bots, the connectors, learn how to manage them, configure them, and actually bring in some custom ones as well. So I'm going to start here on Microsoft Learn. So you see docs.microsoft.com/learn, or you can go right to docs.com/learn, and this is the Learn website. And we're going to look at one specific module. I'm going to jump over to Browse and Teams. I'll go Apps. And manage apps, bots, and connectors in Microsoft Teams. So just to familiarize you with Learn, if you haven't tried it already, as you saw, there's a big search, there's a ton of content, and this is what we call a module on Learn. And modules are broken up in several pages we call units. And you can see here our table of contents. We're going to learn how to customize apps, manage those apps. We're going to learn about bots and about connectors. And so the Learn module itself is going to cover a lot of the things that we're doing today. I'm not going to go through this line by line, but do know that you can go use this resource absolutely free and follow along at home on your own time. And just a couple other things I want to point out before we jump in. We do build out the content on Microsoft Learn in things that we call learning paths. You can see that often on the module. So this module is part of these learning paths. And this one is Manage Teams, Collaboration with Microsoft Teams. And so this will just have a connection, a series of modules with usually a similar theme that build up skills to allow you to do big, cool, and amazing things. And this is part of that learning path. And this learning path is specifically built to help you earn certifications. And in this one here, it's to earn the Microsoft 365 Teams Administrator Associate certification. That's the MS 700 cert. And if you have any questions about that, we can talk about those later. But I think we should jump into some content. So let's play with Teams. And so first things first, you know what, I'm actually jumping right into a demo. But again, the module goes through a lot of the foundations, the fundamentals, and it starts with customizing app settings. So I'm going to switch over to my Teams, and we're going to do a little bit of this live rather than going through this in the unit. And so here I have a Microsoft Teams instance. I'm running in the web client. There is, of course, a desktop client as well. You know, you might not be surprised to hear that I'm actually using that desktop client right now to present to you live. So I'm going to use the web client. That's going to let me use my test environment as we demo here. And so within Microsoft Teams, we go down to the left-hand side. We have the app section, which is where I am now. And this allows us to bring in applications. And there's something really important about this concept. And that is really the functionality and the purpose of Microsoft Teams. And Microsoft Teams is, in some ways, an evolution of things like Skype for Business, where we had chat and we had calling functionality. And Microsoft Teams is the successor to that. It has all those features, but it's really meant to be a collaboration platform. And it pulls in content and data from a lot of other sources. And one of those things we could do are bring in applications. And if you go through this list here, we can scroll down, you can see there are a ton of apps. And a lot of them are from Microsoft, which makes a lot of sense. Things like Azure Boards, Microsoft Planner, but you'll notice there's a lot of third-party applications as well. And this is really powerful because we can bring in the applications that we use on a day-to-day basis for our business, the things that we rely on to get our jobs done, and bring it into the Teams environment. And so I'm going to grab Planner as an example. So Planner, also part of M365, and I'm going to add this to Microsoft Teams. Simple as that. And notice here, we now have Planner linked on the left-hand side. And you can see it's actually pulled in some data already. And I added a task here, learn how to build bots for Microsoft Teams. So not only have we brought in an interface to Planner, but it's actually using the same data that we're using in our M365 subscription. And the fun thing here is we can go into Teams, we can interact with these applications. So here's my team, cleverly named Adrian Learn. This is my test environment. And let's make we'll add a channel here. We'll go, planning in actions, we'll call it. Let's add this channel. And you can see right here when we create the channel, we can bring in some other things. We can actually add a tab. And because we've added Planner to Microsoft Teams, we can now add a Planner tab. And so the tabs here are represented at the top on our channel. We've got our posts, our files, our wiki, those are standard. And now we can add Planner. Let's give this a quick moment. And of course, what's great about this is that it's going to allow, it gives us the ability to customize how we interact, not only with Microsoft Teams as a product, but the individual channels. We can bring in those applications and bring in those resources that we need for each channel. Let's try that one more time. Hit the retry button. There we go. Create new plan. We're going to call this my quarterly tasks. And we'll save that. And you see this right here. And then, of course, we can do all the things we expect to be able to do with Planner. We can add that task. We'll learn about Teams templates. We'll add that task. Again, back in our data source allows us to customize each channel. And the great thing here, of course, is that anyone who has access to this channel will also see the same tasks, and then we can collaborate in this space. So that's one really cool way that we can customize Microsoft Teams. So how else might we customize Teams? Well, another really powerful thing we can do, add Teams connectors. And I like the way this is stated here on this Learn module. So their connectors are a way to push rich content from other services into Microsoft Teams. Now you'll notice that we were just able to add applications, and we were pulling in apps from even, from first party and third party, sources. But connectors allow us really to go directly to the data. And so it allows us to connect to services, so things like Twitter, RSS, a lot of your favorites, like things like Wunderlist, even like GitHub, DevOps, et cetera, et cetera. And what's really powerful here is the connectors allow us to get data on a cadence. So it allows us to get data feeds and bring that into our Teams environment. And so the idea here is that we would find data sources for things that are relevant to us. So if we go back to our Teams channel, I'm going to make another channel here. Let's just call this Learning and Education. And very much like our applications, we're going to go in here and we're going to add a connector. But notice here we're doing it per channel now. So we're going to add that connector. And I'm going to use one of my favorite connectors, and that's RSS, but like you see that top of the list. But again, I want to give you a quick review. I'm going to scroll through. And again, notice, again, a lot of sources from Microsoft, things like SharePoint News, GitHub, but of course, we also have a lot of third-party connectors as well. So we can grab our Google Analytics, we can get things from our build environment from Jenkins, and really a pretty impressive list of connectors here. So let's go back up and let's bring in an RSS feed. So I'm going to add that. So notice now it needs some data, it needs some information. So we can bring in an RSS connector, but it needs to connect to something. We need a data source. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with RSS, it's a really common, it's a standard communication protocol, or standard format, I should say, that's popular for things like news sources, blog feeds, etc. And you can bring in things where people are posting content often and consume that in your Teams environment. And so I've got a favorite one I'm going to use. I should have that tab handy. Let's leave this one. Oh, look, our Microsoft Learn blog. And this is a really nice one, because if you look on the UI here, if we go over to the right-hand side, notice that we have an RSS button. So I'm going to grab that. And this is the RSS feed. Now, without going into all the details, this is a standardized format. And this is going to allow things that consume RSS to parse it because it is in the standard RSS format. So I'm going to grab this link. I'm going to go back to Teams and let's give it a name. So Microsoft Learn blog. We'll add that in. And then we talked about bringing in data, and we talked about bringing in data on a cadence. And you can see here, how often do we want to digest our source? I'm going to set this pretty high, although I don't think it'll change every 15 minutes. But it's Ignite, we might have some new posts. So let's hit that save button and see what happens. We'll give Teams a moment to configure it. Fantastic. And of course, we can go in and make changes to this as well. So now, I close this and look right away, we've now consumed our RSS feed. And so now we have the data. So this is, again, very similar to the list we saw on the website. Let's go back to the home page. So we can see the list of blogs, key learning announcements, level up with the Azure IoT Developer Specialty. That'll be a certification. So if we go back to our Teams environment, again, I bet we're going to see very similar posts. Here we go. Yeah. e-learning announcements, level up, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, these are just hyperlinks in this case that will go directly to those blog posts. And I picked this one in particular because RSS, because it's such a great standard, this is a really easy way for us to bring in other data sources. So yes, we can bring in, sources from blogs or news, but we can also create our own RSS feed. If we've got a developer team, often we'll have an RSS endpoint for our web services that we can then pull in. Now, I want to show you something interesting here as well. If I go back to the apps section, and let's do it this way, actually. I'm going to go into, actually, pardon, I'm going to change up here. I apologize. Let's go into our Learn Education and go into our Manage Channel. Yes, bear with me for a moment. This is what I want. Go with the team settings. There we go. Excellent. And we go to apps. This is what I was looking for. Notice here, so we've got our list of our applications. And so there's actually a pretty nice list here because several of these are added automatically. And notice here, we've got our planner that we added, but notice that RSS actually comes in on the same list. And so although those connectors are consumed differently in the Teams channel, we have a global place to configure both our connectors and our applications. Again, a really powerful way to extend Teams and use it as a platform really for collaboration and consumption of data. So I'm going to pause here for a moment. Do we have any questions?
I do have one question that Hannah had early on, that wondering if the learning pathways is in any way tied to the Microsoft Learn content.
The learning pathways, the learning paths on the Microsoft Learn website?
No, the learning pathways, which is that add-in that you can put in.
I'm not familiar with that one. Has anyone here used that one?
No.
I haven't.
I've seen learning pathways, and I know you can integrate it into Teams, but I didn't know if they were leveraging the same content.
Yes, I believe it is. Yes, so absolutely. Sorry, I apologize. I'm aware of this. I have not tried it yet, but yes, we are absolutely embedding Learn content into Team, and I believe that is the feature. So yeah, that is a great way to access the Learn content, so you can learn about Teams on Teams.
Perfect. Thank you.
Should try that out later. If we have some time, we'll experiment. We'll learn it together. All right, so let's go back to our Learn module. And so we had 3 things we wanted to cover. So we wanted to cover applications, and we did a crash course there. And we learned about connectors, but we also want to learn about bots. And bots are a really powerful tool for Microsoft Teams. And for those of you that used Teams in the past and played with bots, it used to be this extra thing that you build bots. And it was not difficult necessarily, but it was a slightly complex interaction to add bots. And in that, the developer would have to do the coding and do the work to get that two-way communication, respond to events, you have to process those events and write a bunch of code to have a bot exist in the Teams environment. And the cool thing now is on Microsoft Teams, it's actually represented as an application. Now, of course, we know the bots behave a little bit differently. We saw Planner, which of course allows us to interact with our Planner data, but we can also bring in other applications that work like bots. So let's do that. Let's go to More Apps. And so I'm going to show you one that I like. I'm going to use Poly. And this is a fun little tool, which allows you to gain application insights. And you can do things like poll your users and such. And I'm going to add this in. But what's fun about Poly is Poly has a bot interface. You can see I've actually was playing this a little bit. I was saying hello to Poly, and the chat is here. And this is great. So let's try a couple things. Go at Poly. I'll let this enable first. Let's shut that down. We'll try the default response for lunch here, for example. And so this allows us to actually talk to an application in a communication interface, like in a way that we might interact with our user. And this is becoming more and more common that we have applications that have application-like functionality, but also allow us to interact with those applications in a chat environment. And we're going to show you a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. So we got a crash course here, but what if we want to learn more? We'll come back to our Learn module. So this is a fantastic module for getting this overview and getting this lightweight introduction. But what if you want to learn more about building bots? Well, if we go into the bots section, for example, you scroll down, you're going to see it talks about something called the Microsoft Bot Framework. And this is a development tool. This is an API that you can use to create custom chatbots, both for Teams and for other products and services. And what's fun is if we go over to Learn, I'm going to go back to our browse. We type in Teams bots. There's actually a few modules. The one I want to focus on here is actually, sorry, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change to. Actually, these are great examples. I'm going to show this to you quickly, and then I'm going to switch to another module. Actually, so if we go, you can create interactive conversational bots with Microsoft Teams. And this is a more of a developer-focused module. So if we scroll through, we'll see. I see some prerequisites. So the ability to program with JavaScript or TypeScript and Node.js, experience using Visual Code, Visual Studio Code. And so again, this is a developer-focused module, allowing a developer or development team to build those chatbots that would integrate into Microsoft Teams or other places. If we go back, I'm going to jump over. I had the tab open, but we actually have another tool called the Bot Framework Composer. And this is a really powerful tool in that you can build interactive chatbots without writing any code. So I'm not going to walk through the entire module, but I want to show you a couple of things. So we'll jump into it. And the first thing it'll tell you to do is set up your development environment. We'll scroll down here. So we install the Bot Framework Composer, and there are links available. And then there's two other things you'll need. You'll need to have the .NET Core SDK installed, which again, another developer-focused tool. And that's just to power the composer. And then we use something called the Bot Framework Emulator. And with these two things installed, we can start building chatbots locally on our computer and test them before we deploy them to Microsoft Teams. So I'm going to pull it up and do a quick demo here. And so this is the Bot Framework Composer, and let's do the simple to do app. I tried one earlier. Let's make a new one. So we'll go to Ignite. And so this is going to build a sample chatbot using a standard template. And this one, of course, enables us to build a to-do application. And you can go in and you can come in and let me find that. Oh, I'm looking for features. Start the bot first. So on the upper right-hand corner, push the Start Bot button, and this is going to allow us to, one, inspect the bot, and then it'll also let us kick it off with the emulator. Bear with me as I get that started up. And this will take just a few seconds. Actually, in that case, I might just pause and ask any other questions.
Yeah. Adrian, Hannah has another good question about how should she position SharePoint versus Teams, because she gets questions from her colleagues about that.
I love that question. I love it. I can answer it. So I'm going to take a crack at answering this, and then I'm going to defer to the experts here as well if they want to add in. But one of the really cool things about Teams, and I probably should have paused this a little bit before we started, is that Teams really exist to connect you to other products and services. We saw it a little bit with our apps, we thought with our connectors, but it also sits on top of a lot of other Office 365 and M365 products and services. And so when you create a team within Microsoft Teams, it actually creates a SharePoint site at the same time. And so those two data sources are connected. And when you're storing files in Teams, it's actually leveraging things like OneDrive. When you're doing video streaming, and you save that video, that's using another product, Microsoft Stream. And so again, think of Teams as your portal into a lot of these technologies. And that it might seem tricky in that, hey, well, I've got Teams, I've got SharePoint, I've got OneDrive. But the great thing is, it means that you're working from a common data source, a common set of files. So you create a file in Teams. Well, that file is accessible from OneDrive. That file is accessible from SharePoint. Let me pause. So for the moderators here, anything to add to that?
Now, just the best kept secret is that Teams is SharePoint. It lays on top of SharePoint, it leverages SharePoint, and behind the scenes is a whole SharePoint site. You can create whatever you need. I've been using SharePoint since it was a content management server, and it's finally it was like in SharePoint. So, yay!
Yeah, and I think one important point to add here is that if you're using an app for sort of use case for business process automation or workflows, so if you go about creating any workflows, and I think we'll see that at one point of the demo that I'll be doing. So once you create any sort of process or flows and there's sort of list or items that are being updated on that app, so at the back end, it will leverage SharePoint list and it will automatically populate that information in SharePoint as well. So obviously, it's a better together functionality in terms of collaboration when you use it all at one window solution.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm going to add one tiny piece of that. My favorite strategy here is I tend to work. I live in Teams now for my daily workflow. But one of the things I often go to SharePoint for is to create those internal facing websites. So SharePoint, I think of it as like my website host. And that's a really great way for me to create almost like a public face or a storefront for my team. I create the team, and then, hey, if people are curious about it, they can go to SharePoint. I can put information about the team, link to critical resources and things. So again, the two play together very, very well, and I love that common data source. Okay, so back to our bot. Great question, by the way. Keep them coming, please. What am I looking at? That's looking for. I'm looking for the show code button. What I want to show you here is that when you create a bot in the bot framework composer, it actually is doing a lot of the work that you might use in the bot framework, or if you're going to develop this by hand. And the cool thing is in the background, this actually is building all the code. And so you can create a bot here in the composer and then continue development. If you have a development team or you have those development skills, you can use this as a starting point and then actively dev and add critical features to your bot. But you don't have to. I'm going to hide the code. You can actually do everything visually, and there's a visual designer here. And this is just going to walk you through the flow. So again, you're going to greet, and again, there's a little bit of logic here, but you see the logic flows. And I think the best way to do this is to run this. So I'm going to test in the emulator. See if this is firing up. I can see it starting on my other screen. Let me bring that over. And here we go. So this is our bot emulator framework. And you can see right away for the box experience says, here, add a to-do named something. So let's go hi bot. Hello. Add a to-do names learn more about Teams bots. And we've now successfully added to our to-do. And if I remember correctly, I think it's list to-do. Go with logic. Get to-do. Switch out the logic. Let's have a look. What is the input flow? Let me that's all right. I'm going to play with this offline. So I'm about to hand this over for another demo because I'll be honest, I played this just this week just to learn this out. This is a really fun tool, and it's going to allow you to build custom bots. There's the export button up here, will allow you to export the assets, i.e. that code to a zip, or you can export that skill, have that hosted, and then consume that within Teams. But actually, one of our colleagues here, my new friend Amin, is going to show you a few more really fun things that you can do with apps and bots. Amin, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Let me just take a moment to share my screen.
Please take your time. While you do that, I can remember how to list the to-do items in the sample bot.
Just confirm if you're able to see my screen.
I can see it, so I'm going to mute and hand it over to you. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for sort of joining in today's session. So as Adrian mentioned, that obviously you can create bots in Microsoft Teams. So this is one of the bots that we've created, and it's obviously leveraging Microsoft bot framework and cognitive services and Q&A maker at the back, which is obviously coming in from Azure. And this is a Teams bot. So it has all the information pertaining to Microsoft Teams. So let's say if I go and type in a question in NLP, and I say, how do I create channels in Microsoft Teams? So the bot has knowledge about this, and on the fly, the bot will be able to answer me question. Obviously, if there is any specific question that the bot does not have information about, then you can go about going this option, which is asking an expert. And what this will actually do is it will give you an option to sort of raise a ticket. So you'll say that my Teams app is crashing, for example. And this will actually post as a query on a Microsoft Teams channel, which can probably be an help desk. And the help desk guys will be available here. So I've created one of the channels where this is actually getting posted. And you can go about, so if I am one of the users, I can directly, the help desk resource can talk to one of the guys. And you can, based on that, you can change the status. If it's something that you've already done, you've closed, you can just simply submit and you can close it. Obviously, the integration aspect is there. You can integrate an existing help desk solution alongside with this app as well. This is one of the use cases which I find pretty helpful. I can give you an example where there was one of the customers who were migrating from Google to Office 365, and as part of the pandemic, we couldn't do the physical migration. So there was a physical help desk that was there, which we sort of created for this migration. But obviously it had to go remote, and then we used these similar sort of bot services where we sort of brought in the digital experience and we offloaded all of that physical desk experience to this sort of app, and it was doing all the heavy lifting. There are other applications that naturally you can use, one of which is very famous around is the Crisis Communicator app. So any message from the leadership or the management, it comes up as a push notifications on this app, and obviously you can have it pinned on Teams. So all these push notifications will be reflecting here in the company news. At the same time, you have all the WHO guidelines coming in here. If you have any emergency contacts, if there's a health and security expert in the organization, you can put in those details here. If there's specific requests that someone needs to make, so obviously that request can be made here. Let's say I need hand sanitizers, for example, in the CC building or whatever, and this request gets posted. So in my case, this request will be coming into me on the email. So it will just take a minute for this to come in. And naturally, obviously, this request is, in my case, it is redirecting to me, but whoever is the desired personnel in the organization, you can obviously have it coming to that person. There's another app for visitor management that you can obviously create. So this is a simple visitor management app leveraging Microsoft Power Apps and Power Automate. So you can have a request for a visit. Obviously, I can give in my email address right now just to show you. In this case, it will show me a form, and this form is also created leveraging Microsoft Office 365 services in Microsoft Form. So it will send me a form which will have all the details that a visitor needs to fill. And again, it will just take a moment to come up on my email, so I'll be able to show you that form. While that comes in, so you all also have the option to sort of create ad hoc requests as well. So you can, so if you're filling up the information for the visitor, then you can go here and you can start filling up that information, contact details, when is the visitor coming to visit. You can give it all these details, what is the organization and what is the purpose of visit. And you can submit it simply. And this gets posted up on your sort of app interface. And right now, if you see, this app is currently pending. So there is a particular channel that we've created specifically for the security expert within the organization, and the backend flow engine is currently running. So something that will come up is something like this: whoever is the host, who is the visitor, and sort of what is the time for the visit. It will just take a minute to sort of populate. And if you see here, the request that I just added is coming up as an adaptive card. I can confirm this particular request. And once I confirm the request, if I go back, now that request will change its status from pending to confirmed. Similarly, there'll be an administrative view as well for the front desk officer, where he will sort of have a view of what are the upcoming visits for today, what are the coming visits in the coming days. Obviously, he'll have an option to check in and check out anyone who's coming in and going. There's obviously a dashboard view that you can also create about how many people are there in the building, how many visits do you have specifically in the day. And there are obviously other applications that you can leverage. I think one of the discussions was around the learning app, and I think this is one app which is very exciting to be used. So there's a building access app that you can leverage. I mean, we have limited time, otherwise I would love to walk you through all the apps. But as part of COVID, obviously, anyone coming into the office, so there's certain checks that needs to be validated before anyone can be granted access. And this also follows a whole complete workflow. But the app that I wanted to show is Office 365 Learning app. And this gets pinned and published to everybody in the organization. And one of the good things about the app is that, let's say if I jump into Teams, so people who are new on Teams, and obviously there's an adoption and change management sort of engagement that is done for the complete rollout and to get people familiar with Teams. But this app is really helpful because it acts as a learning app where people can directly go themselves and they can start running these end user sort of learning material on how to customize, how to create channels, how to go about leveraging Teams for the day-to-day productivity. And similarly, there are also content available for OneDrive and other contents available, which is running as an app. And this content is obviously getting updated from the back end, and it's all dynamic. So this is one of these applications that one can leverage and start using, and it becomes really exciting. Thank you, Adrian. I think over to you.
That was fantastic. Thank you very, very much. And I'll get my screen share back up again. And a presentation tip, get really, really smart people to support you when you're presenting. And it makes your presentation go a little better. We had some really great questions, and I want to pause on those just for a moment. So bear with me. I pull up my question list on my other screen. So we had a couple of great questions around chatbot configuration and connectors. And I just answered the last one that came up was whether it'd be a LinkedIn connector coming. And that's a great call. I don't know the answer to that. And if anyone here does, please feel free to answer. But it is possible to create your own custom connectors. So if you need to consume that type of data, you definitely could do a little bit of development work and bring that in. LinkedIn, I haven't looked at the APIs for consuming data, but I assume it's possible to make a token and bring that in. There's some other questions. I saw some things about Q&A maker versus creating bots. And I want to show something here as well. So if you look at the bot framework composer, and if you look at the examples, you can scroll down here, you can see there actually are Q&A examples. Let's make one and have a look. I haven't tried this one yet. So you need an endpoint for your Q&A. So I think we would go in. Oh, this is for your knowledge base. Fantastic. So let me pause And so Q&A Maker is Q&A stands for question and answer. And Q&A Maker is a way of making a chatbot based on question answer pairs. And it's really quite cool. It's another no code strategy that we could pull up. And you would write a question and then provide an answer. So you might say something like, what time is lunch? You say lunch is at 12 p.m. or just put 12 p.m. But the powerful thing about Q&A Maker is it uses Lewis, which is our natural language processing engine. And so you might put a question of what time is lunch and then provide the answer. But a user then could ask the bot, when is lunch? Or I want to know when lunch is. What is lunchtime? And that intelligent language processing is smart enough to realize that those are variations of the same question. And so this allows you to do things like build up a bunch of question answer pairs, but your users don't have to put it in identically character for character to make an intelligent question answer bot. And if you haven't played with this type of technology, I really think of this as a really great way of building a powerful FAQ. So instead of just having that big text list of questions and answers, you can make an intelligent service that's able to better process and understand your users' needs. This would be a fun demo. Might wire that one up later. Let's see. For the moderators, any other questions standing out? Fantastic. Well, please, I think I heard someone come off mic. Go ahead, Shari.
No, I'm just saying there's a bunch of questions about RSS feeds. I don't know how to answer those. I don't know if you have anything about RSS feeds that you can provide for them.
Yeah, I saw a couple. I tried to answer a couple while Min was chatting. But so RSS. So there's I saw a couple questions. So So RSS is a standard. It's a standard pattern. I think the correct word for that, but it's standard structure, I'm going to say. Let's see if I can find that. Here we go. So it's a well-known, well-structured XML format. And so what that means is that many things can parse RSS. It's actually an older technology, but it's really powerful, and hopefully this loads up for us and you can see, although it's going to be very text heavy, it's relatively simple. There's a header at the top that says, hey, this is the type of feed it is. And then it has just a hierarchy of information in the XML format. We've got items with a title, a link, and a description. And so the fun thing here is it's relatively straightforward for a developer to build a custom RSS feed. So if you wanted to, again, interact and bring in RSS data that's custom to your business, your developer team, or if you have developer skills, you could build an endpoint that presents this RSS feed. Now, another question I saw was, hey, what if I don't want just a list? I want to be able to consume this data in other ways. Maybe you want to have it persistent on your site, or maybe you want to be able to query it. Well, the cool thing is, we covered a lot of ground. We covered apps and bots and connectors, but you can actually bring these things together. So you could build a custom application and that loads this RSS feed. And then rather than just present that information into your team's channel, your application could cache it off. You could even build a bot that says, hey bot, what blog posts have been posted in the last 3 weeks? And you could build in that intelligence and have it actually read in this data source and then use that natural language processing to give the information you want. And again, it does come back to having a little bit of dev and IT knowledge, but these things they're well known and they're well structured. And so someone who's proficient in things like JavaScript, TypeScript, or C# can generally put these things together relatively easily. And it's kind of mind blowing where, 10 years ago, we're making simple apps with things like Windows Forms. Now we're building AI powered chatbots that interact with our corporate team environments. Pretty mind blowing. One other question I saw go by, which is really in the spirit of the intelligence of the bots, of do you have to provide every question answer? And I think we somewhat answer that with the Q&A Maker. But again, we have technologies that do natural language processing. So as long as you have a data source that has the information you need in that bot, you can build bots that are really, really good at understanding people that can then go and search your database, maybe a SQL table, maybe a structured RSS feed or some other data source, and actually pull out that information. So it's almost mind-boggling what some of the possibilities are. So I'm gonna I'm going to wrap things up a little bit. I'm going to show you just a couple more quick things about Learn, but we've got some time left, so be happy to answer more questions. I might go through, jump in the list. And again, moderators, if you have other things you want to add in and share, please feel free to do so. And I'm going to say too, thank you everyone for all the great questions. This has been a ton of fun. It's nice to go beyond just the basic training content on Learn and get into the fun, cool AI technology and such. So in that spirit, for some of these questions, again, I love answering them, but I also want to let you know that a lot of this stuff is covered on Microsoft Learn. So Q&A, we do have a full learning path on creating intelligent bots with the Azure Bot Service, building bots with the Q&A Maker. And again, so we've got a lot of great content for building these types of things. And within Microsoft, I've mentioned the term bot framework. And something that's important to note is the bot framework, again, it's meant to be building general purpose bots. But Microsoft has made Teams what we call like a first class output for those bots. And so again, I mentioned earlier that it used to be you had to do a bunch of work to bring a bot into Teams. Now, when you build a bot with the bot service, that bot will just work in Teams. So you can go through and learn how to build bots generally, and then they're relatively straightforward. Use your Azure subscription, and you can bring in these endpoints into Teams and do all kinds of powerful things like Amin just showed. I want to pause this quickly and just talk about, hey, so obviously we like learning because we want to be able to do cool things. And sometimes we want to show that we can do cool things. And Microsoft really believes a lot in certifications, a long history there. But it used to be we'd get certifications that were product focused, and that was good because we could say we showed proficiency in products, but we realized that people don't usually build with one thing anymore. We're not just database developers. We're using databases and applications. Maybe we're using databases to power intelligent bots. You know, we're not just configuring one application in M365, but we're administrators that can configure all of these things. And so the Microsoft training and certifications tend to revolve around roles now. And I wanted to show you a couple of fun ones. There's a Microsoft 365 Fundamental certification, which really meant to show proficiency in M365, and a really good exam as a stepping stone to become an administrator or possibly a reseller in the 365 space. A fun one, and I'm gonna brag a little bit. I actually studied for and passed the exam just 2 weeks ago, so I'm a big fan of it, and it was a lot of fun to go through this content, this training, and earn the certification. And the content we talked about today actually leads to a lot of things, but the first module was actually part of the training for the MS 700 certification, which is all about managing Microsoft Teams. Talks about the transition from Skype for Business into Teams and how Teams fits within the M365 environment. So again, it's fun to learn. Obviously, we want to go off and do great big things, but we also want to have the ability to get new careers and show that we have these skills, and these are really modern skills. So big fan of those certifications. And so with that, I think I really wanted to say, hey, I hope you had a great time. I'm on the Learn team, so obviously I'm a big fan of Learn. Check it out, it's free. I'll say it again, it's all free. It'll always be free. And we're always striving to provide as much free, let's say, interactivity as possible. So if you do any of the Azure training, we have this cool thing called the Azure Sandbox that allows you to try out these things for free. And you're gonna see more of that as the Learn platform evolves. Oh, you know what? We're doing something else a little bit fun too. I'm gonna put our moderators to the test here too. So you're going to be called on. So some of the interactivity we have within our Learn modules, we call them knowledge checks, and they're little quizzes. They're fun ways of just validating that you've learned useful knowledge and skills, and they're also a little bit of practice if you want to earn those certifications. And so we actually have a few from the Learn module we've been through today. And so for moderators, so which statement is true? And for those of you watching, play along at home, of course, as well. Which statement is true about the Microsoft Teams app? Is it A, Microsoft Teams apps are Microsoft applications such as Office and OneNote? B, by default, Teams apps are turned off for all users? Is it C, users cannot change the default settings for individual apps? Or D, Microsoft Teams apps provide out-of-the-box tools for your organization to get more out of Teams? Moderators?
D.
And the answer is absolutely, of course. No one's surprised that our moderators have the answer here. Fantastic. Number 2, we got 3 questions. So who can build apps, bots, and connectors? Is it A, they can only be built by Microsoft, a third party, or your own developers? Apps, bots, connectors must be built by Microsoft, or apps, bots, and connectors must be built by a third party. And as some of you can probably tell, I have a developer background, so I probably hammered this one home. Anyone know the answer?
A.
Absolutely, which is really cool. And again, that idea that we can use Teams as our central source for communication and collaboration and bring in the tools, the data, and the interactivity that we need. We probably didn't cover this all that closely. This is part of the module. So we're building apps for Microsoft Teams. What does the app package include? Is it Microsoft Apps? Is it bots, messaging extensions, tabs, and connectors? Or is it Windows 10 and Microsoft 365 apps?
My guess would be B because it's the package, but I don't know, Mark.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
I'm 3 for 3.
You are 3 for 3. Thank you very much for playing along with me. I appreciate it. Absolutely. We didn't talk about this in a lot of detail, and this really comes back to when we're ready to bring things into Teams. We package up those applications. And there's something really interesting here in that, we're saying it's an app package, but notice we're saying extensions and bots and connectors. And really, so all those, although they are different things, and we as humans think of them as different types of interactivity, in Teams, they're managed in some ways in a similar fashion. And it means our developers can develop them using a common set of skills. Again, really powerful there. Before we wrap things up, I want to call out the Microsoft Ignite Cloud Skills Challenge. This is a ton of fun. We're doing virtual conferences, and so we don't always have all those fun hands-on things we do on the conference floor. But hey, the cool thing is though, we all get to do it without having to fly and cram into hotel rooms. So pretty cool. And one of the fun things we've done here is brought in the Microsoft Ignite Cloud Skills Challenge. So you can go win some things, and it's the right way to go learn some stuff and test your knowledge. Of course, all about learn, so I'm a big fan. Check it out. myignite.microsoft.com/learning zone, and no cost or purchase necessary. I think you've heard this a few times. Microsoft Learn, docs.com/learn. Lots of certification links there as well. It's right on that page, but we'll go directly to the certifications, docs.microsoft.com/learn/certifications. And a big thank you very much. It's been a ton of fun to be here. It's been so much fun. Thank you very much, moderators. We'll stick around and answer some more questions, but hope you're all having a fantastic Ignite. And we'll be doing the session again too. So if you want to come back and see it all again, you're welcome to join us. But honestly, go out there and check out the other things that we're delivering at night. Lots of great things left for the next couple of days. Have a fantastic virtual conference.
Adrian, question from Gregorio, Korea.
Great.
From Argentina. Do you know if there are any plans for being able to use apps, connectors, and/or bots in live events? You'd really love to do polls when rolling up a webinar.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know the answer, but that's a good idea. Do any of our moderators know?
I just attended this session this morning. The end of it, some more effective meetings or something in Teams. I apologize, I don't know the title, but they announced at the end that they're integrating Microsoft Forms to be used for polls during meetings.
Excellent.
I don't know what that means. I just saw a little blurb go by, so might check into that. I'm not sure. I was like, that was a big announcement. So
excellent. Yeah, and I'm aware that we can do that within, for meetings within Teams. I don't know about live events, so I won't give an answer. I feel like it should be possible.
Okay.
And very cool. Yeah, Teams, I think, as a platform is going to be rapidly evolving, so don't be surprised if you see new features coming up. Anything else? I'm going to flip through the new list while I'm looking here. Oh, and someone had a correction, and yes, that is, so, yeah, I do apologize. Some of the Teams isn't leveraging OneDrive, it's leveraging the documents library in SharePoint, which, again, I'll ask the moderators. I believe the underlying storage actually is OneDrive for SharePoint, or am I mistaken? It may be common technology, but not express the user in that way. Yeah, so I have a great question here. How do you add Microsoft Learn to Teams? I need to find out. We talked about that briefly earlier, but I believe that is coming. Let's do a Bing search and see if we can find out the status of that. Learn in Teams. And I will spend a few minutes after a session. I'll go through the questions, and if there's anything left unanswered, I'll try and add in responses as best I can.
One of the questions that was posed that I'm also curious to is, when are they going to have the pop-out added to Microsoft Teams live events?
Ooh, good question. So I, fortunately, being part of Microsoft, get to play with some of the, we call them dog fooding, or the preview versions of Teams. And there has been some exploration with that feature. I don't know the exact roadmap, but I believe, so you're not allowed to quote me on this, but I do think it is likely coming. And I apologize right now, team engineers, if that's incorrect.
I'll post the link to the Microsoft roadmap in the announcements. For you.
Ah, wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you, Lauren. So I saw a response. It says, an underlying is SharePoint directly for the Files tab and OneDrive for person-to-person sharing. Ah, fantastic. Thank you.
Can I share my analogy with that?
Please do.
I always tell people that the OneDrive is like that file cabinet that sits in underneath your desk that you have control over, you have the keys to. SharePoint is like the big file cabinet that's out in the hallway that you have multiple drawers for, and certain people have the keys to let you in if you are allowed. So if that helps at all. And then Teams is a collection of those big file cabinets if you need them. So
I like that. I'm going to use that.
Feel free
What's
to
a
steal.
file cabinet? How old are you?
Don't ask. You never ask a lady how old she is. Yeah, I know. In the paper world. What's paper, right? No, I was kidding.
Is that an app? All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. Again, have a fantastic rest of your night. Thank you. Big, huge thank you to the moderators. And hopefully I'll see some of you on the next sessions as well. And have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. Bye for now.
Awesome. Thanks, Adrian.